Las Vegas 2011. Oh, multiple cars involved. Oh my. 15 cars gone in an instant. Very bad. I just pray to God that nobody hurt Mike, cause it's the thulliest thing I've seen. But the worst was still ahead. We do not know who is inside that helicopter at this moment. A sunny race turned into the darkest weekend of the century. The race began in a strange way because IndyCar launched an unusual challenge. Whoever starts from the back to win Theris claims $5 million. It wasn't just about glory, but also about danger. Would anyone dare? One man said yes. Dan Weldon, honestly, I always put a lot of pressure on myself anyway, and there's a lot of history and tradition to win the Indianapolis 500. This is slightly different. It's a unique opportunity. If you think he did it for the money, you're wrong. The truth runs deeper, and it started back in 2003 when he made his IndyCar debut. He shocked the paddock by qualifying 5th. But during the race, there was something no one saw coming. That won't be something that Brian "Bartand" Weldon upside down. After the accident, everything changed. Dan, by 2005, was at the very top. He won 6 races. The first time in motorsports, 4. Teammates finished 1 from 4. Dan Weldon just walked away with a check. Your winner, Dan Weldon, making a mess of the claim the IndyCar Championship, and conquered the biggest prize of them all, the Indianapolis 500. The checkered flag is out in Indianapolis, and the pubs are open in the UK. Dan Weldon has just won the Indianapolis 500. At just 27, Weldon became the face of American motorsport. But in racing, talent isn't enough. You need the right team. So Dan made the switch. On paper, it looked perfect. And he won his first race with them. Beauty each year took him further from his peak. His reputation shifted from rising star to faded talent. My goals are towing, and if I'm not achieving them, I'm not a happy person and I don't feel successful. So by 2010, he was out of IndyCar entirely. Like many before him, Dan swamped the wheel for a microphone. You look awful serious, Dub. I am. It's my job now. He also became a father, and racing seemed like something from a past life. But just when everything seemed over, the phone rang. On the line, Brian Harura, a former teammate turned team owner. Heifered Dan a single race. And not just any race, the 100th anniversary of the Indy 500. Herd's team had no budget, no modern tools, just a 2003 chassis held together by grit. And yet, as the race unfolded, Dan refused to fade into the background because he saved fuel at the beginning of the stint. Well, Scott Dixon has gotten around, and so has Dan. Well to Dan. White flag is in hand. Lap after lap, he stayed tucked just behind the front runners. Just as the leaders began to run out of fuel, the race took an unexpected turn. He hit the wall just like Thomas. Dan Weldon is going to win the race. That is unbelievable. It was redemption for the team that had nothing. For the driver, they'd all counted out, and for a sport that, for armament, remembered what it meant to believe in fairy tales. Dan Weldon was a champion once again. Not just in their record books, but in the hearts of everyone watching. It's just an incredible day. Congratulations, Dan Weldon, the winner of the centennial anniversary, Indianapolis 500. Taking my kids to Disney, baby. I'm taking my kids to Disney. October 16, 2011, the day of the $5 million challenge. We announced the winner of the $5 million GoDaddy U IndyCar Verizon challenge. Ann Benko, she's a very excitable character, a lovely lady from New Jersey, so I've got to make sure I do very well. She did tell me that she was going to put me in a headlock prior to the race just as a warning to let me know what will happen if I don't deliver. This was going to be an absolute spectacle of a race. But there was a tension in the air because Las Vegas was a new track not designed for IndyCar. Drivers hated it because of the danger. More on that later. But Dan had fought through tougher problems. He wasn't worried. As the race got underway, Weldon tried to fight his way back from the massive back crowd. He started passing cars already, moving up 10 spots. and then everybody else has opened the upper in front of him, and even. Oh, here we go. Trouble contact and a huge crash. Up in turn number 2. Oh, multiple cars involved. Oh my, with cars everywhere, medics tried desperately to help the drivers. It was absolute chaos. Very bad. I just pray to God that nobody's hurt Mike. It's the ugliest thing I've seen in any car racing for forever. When news began flooding in about injured drivers, silence fell over the paddock. Someone was rushed to the hospital by helicopter. That's not a good sign. We do not know who is inside that helicopter at this moment, but no one knew anything for certain, and Thessalon's stretched on. Dan Weldon that was taken by air to University Medical Center. Then the announcement came. Andy Carr is very sad to announce that Dan Weldon has passed away from unsurvivable injury. Our thoughts and prayers are with his family today. The drivers have decided to do a 5-lap salute in his honor. It will take place in approximately 10 minutes. Thank you. This broke the entire racing world. So what the hell happened? A minor collision in the middle of the pack triggered a devastating chain reaction. Cars were caught in the chaos. That was the risk of starting from the back. Dan had no time to react. He was doing over 220 miles an hour when he was launched into the air. His car flipped and slammed into the catch fence cockpit first. The helmet struck a fence post directly. The impact was fatal. And the worst part, before the race even started, the paddock was shouting about the danger. The Las Vegas Motor Speedway was never designed for Indy cars. With its high banking and narrow lanes, it created the perfect environment for pack racing. Drivers bunched together at over 220 mph, inches apart, with no room to brake. But the real issue went deeper than just the track. The car Dan was driving. The IR5 was dangerously outdated. At high speeds, it had a fatal flaw. If the front end lifted or touched another car, it could launch into the air. Then there was the field size. 34 cars, more than the Indy 500 on a shorter, tighter oval. Some drivers had limited oval experience. Some had limited funding. The mix was volatile. It wasn't just a race, it was a show made for TV finale built for ratings and headlines, with a $5 million bounty dangled as bait. And Weldon was a guy who raced for the fans, beloved by everyone. He wanted to give them a show. So who was to blame? It was corporate greed that overlooked all of these problems for cheap spectacle. Desperate for viewers, the race was the most watched for 5 years. IndyCar got its wish in the worst way. Racing didn't just lose a driver, it lost a hero. The next day, IndyCar would hold attribute, a slow salute around the track. The unfortunate part about it is he's noon laughed about that rework. Far too soon provided us with so many rhythm. Just one number stayed on the board, 77. Inside Toad Cannonan's car was a piece of Dan's racing suit. It remains one of the saddest moments in motorsport history. 1 minute you're joking around driver intros, and the next Dan's gone. I told his son on Wednesday night, when we had the prayer and the strip the Thursday night. I said to Sebastian, I've known your dad since he was almost your size. He was 6 years old when I first met him. And then I bumped into a friend of mine that Jamie Spence I used to race go-karts with. And him and I were just talking. We knew Dan since he was this little kid with Lionheart was going to be a legend in everyone's heart. Within a week, charity raised $600,000 for Dan's family. More than a tragedy, it was a moment of reckoning for the entire sport. Dan Weldon himself had spent the year helping IndyCar design a safer, stronger car for the future. He never got to race it, but after his death, they named it in his honor, the DW12, and the changes didn't stop there. IndyCar also addressed the danger of head-on impacts. Like Formula One's Halo, they introduced the aero screen, a protective shield designed to keep drivers safe from flying debris and fence strikes. And the heartbreaking part, Weldon's only fatal injury came from hitting the fence. With an aero screen, he likely would have survived. As I mentioned earlier, he had children. I have 2 boys that need me, and you get up, and you just keep going. Now, did I have days and even the first couple years where it was just, like, horrible? Yeah, it was horrible. Now, Sebastian and Oliver Weldon are climbing the Motorsport career ladder. My name is Oliver. Susie and her boys are very close. Sebastian became the Skip Barber Racing Series champion in 2023 and now competes in USF Juniors. Oliver made his debut in 2024, finishing on the podium. Their mother, Susie Weldon, remains their biggest fan. All 3 appeared in the 2024 HBO documentary Lionheart. Each year, Dan is remembered through memorial charity events and Dan Weldon Day in St. Petersburg.